This is News Always On. Claims and counterclaims continue to swirl around President Trump's top stance on people coming into the U.S. illegally. The administration's zero-tolerance policy has led to the separation of nearly 2,000 migrant children from the families along the southern border. Border Patrol Sector Chief Manuel Padilla calls the separations temporary. Inside an old warehouse in South Texas, hundreds of children wait in a series of cages created by metal fencing.
To date, this sector has prosecuted 600 adults, heads of household. 600 adult heads of household. Immigration-related prosecutions for the sector this fiscal year equal 11,200. Those are immigration-related prosecutions altogether. Out of those 11,200, 8,900 have been for entry without inspection.
One cage had about 20 children inside. Scattered about are bottles of water, bags of chips, and large foil sheets intended to serve as blankets. More than 1,100 people were inside the large dark facility that's divided into separate wings for unaccompanied children, adults on their own, and mothers and fathers with children. The cages in each wing open out into common areas to use portable restrooms. The overhead lighting in the warehouse stays on around the clock. The Border Patrol said close to 200 people inside the facility were minors unaccompanied by a parent. Another 500 were, quote, family units, parents and children. Many adults who crossed the border without legal permission could be charged with illegal entry and placed in jail away from their children.
This is not the Texas I know. This is not the America that I grew up in, and I am so concerned for the future welfare of not only these little children, the teenagers, the parents, the trauma that they are experiencing, but also for the future of our mental state as a nation.
The practice of separating children from their parents at the border is the result of a policy change by the Trump administration under a zero-tolerance approach.
It amounts to state-sponsored child abuse. Donald Trump created it, and Donald Trump should fix it immediately. If he won't, then the Congress should fix it immediately.
Adults suspected of crossing the border illegally are referred for prosecution and detained. As a consequence, they are separated from their children. The policy is also affecting families seeking asylum.
I mean, this second-class country where these individuals who are coming here for a better life are now just finding the dark side, like the underbelly of the racism, the segregation, when they're seeking nothing but a better life here.
Church groups and human rights advocates have sharply criticized the policy, calling it inhumane. Stories have spread of children being torn from their parents' arms and parents not being able to find where their kids have gone. Dr. Colleen Croft, the head of the American Academy of Pediatrics, said she visited a small shelter in Texas where she saw a toddler inside the 60-bed facility. The toddler was crying uncontrollably and pounding her little fist on mat. Staff members tried to console the child, who looked to be about 2 years old, but Kraft said she had been taken from her mother the night before and brought to the shelter. The staff gave her books and toys, but they were not allowed to pick her up, to hold her or hug her, or to try to calm her. As a rule, staff aren't allowed to touch their children there. Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen said, quote, "We do not have a policy of separating families at the border, period." She tweeted, "This misreporting by members, press, and advocacy groups must stop. It is irresponsible and unproductive. As I have said many times before, if you are seeking asylum for your family, there's no reason to break the law and illegally cross between ports of entry." After blaming Democrats for the current U.S. immigration policy, President Trump said the United States will not be a migrant camp or a refugee holding facility, at least not on his watch. Quote, "Immigration is the fault because we cannot get them to sign legislation. We cannot get them even to the negotiating table. And I say it's very strongly the Democrats' fault. They are really obstructionists and they are obstructing." Attorney General Jeff Sessions defended the president's policy of splitting children from the adults who brought them into the U.S. and said, quote, We do not want to separate children from their parents. You can be sure of that. If we build the wall, we pass some legislation, we close some loopholes, we won't face these terrible choices. Former First Lady Laura Bush wrote an opinion piece for the Washington Post in which she compared the Department of Homeland Security actions to the U.S. policy of incarcerating Japanese Americans in camps during World War II. She said, quote, "This zero-tolerance policy is cruel, it is immoral, and it breaks my heart." First Lady Melania Trump sent a statement to CNN saying that though she believes a country needs to follow all laws, the United States also needs to be a country that governs with heart. Nielsen said, quote, "America has a broken immigration system. We will not apologize for enforcing U.S. immigration laws," adding that for those who want to come to the U.S., this administration has a simple message. If you cross the border illegally, we will prosecute you. Nielsen also said of the children who are being held by the U.S. government, she said, "It is important to note that these minors are very well taken care of. Don't believe the press. They are very well taken care of." According to NPR, a number of high-profile Trump officials have spoken in favor of the policy. Last month, Sessions said, "If you don't want your child to be separated, then don't bring them across the border illegally. It's not our fault that somebody does that." Senator Merkley warned that kids inside who have been separated from their parents are already being traumatized, saying, quote, "It doesn't matter whether the floor is swept and the bed sheets tucked in tight." For more on this, subscribe to our channel.